Eagles Nation, the Philadelphia Eagles are heading into the 2026 season looking like a completely different football team. And honestly, this might be one of the biggest transitions we've seen in years. Not just because of the roster changes, but because the entire identity of the offense is about to change from the ground up. Everything starts with the coaching staff, and that's where the conversation gets really interesting. Sean Mannion is now running this offense, replacing Kevin Patullo, and the difference is already noticeable. Inside the organization, there's a real belief that Mannion is bringing a completely fresh approach to Philadelphia. This is a coach who was literally playing in the NFL just a few years ago, and now he steps into one of the biggest offensive coordinator jobs in football with the responsibility of rebuilding an offense that struggled badly in 2025. The numbers were not good enough for a team with championship expectations. The Eagles finished 19th in points per game, 24th in total yards, and near the bottom of the league in offensive efficiency. That simply was not acceptable for a roster this talented. Now the Eagles are shifting into a system inspired heavily by the Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay offensive philosophy. That means more motion, more creativity, more route combinations attacking the middle of the field, and a massive emphasis on timing and precision. Jalen Hurts is going to be challenged in ways we haven't consistently seen before. The offense is expected to place him under center much more often, and he'll have to operate quicker while attacking different areas of the field. Even Saquon Barkley admitted this system is different from anything he's played in before. The Eagles are transitioning into a zone blocking scheme after years of dominance with Jeff Stoutland coaching the offensive line. Now Chris Cooper takes over that role, and while replacing a legendary coach is never easy, Philadelphia clearly believes this offensive evolution is necessary if they want to compete at the highest level again. But the biggest storyline that continues hanging over this team is the future of A.J. Brown. At this point, it genuinely feels like the Eagles are preparing for life without him. There's growing momentum around the possibility of a post-June 1st trade, potentially involving the New England Patriots. And if that happens, the entire structure of the offense changes overnight. Suddenly, DeVonta Smith becomes the unquestioned #1 receiver on this football team. And honestly, a lot of Eagles fans have been waiting to see that happen for years. DeVonta has always had WR1 talent ever since coming out of Alabama. The problem is that he's been sharing targets with one of the league's most dominant receivers in A.J. Brown. Even while playing in that shadow, Smith consistently showed flashes of elite ability. His route running, body control, and separation skills already make him one of the smoothest receivers in football. Now imagine him becoming the focal point of the offense in a system designed to create more space and movement. That could unlock another level of his game, but the Eagles are also preparing several new weapons to step into larger roles. My Lemon is expected to become a major part of this offense out of the slot, and internally there's real excitement about what he can do in this system. Philadelphia plans to move him all over the field, creating mismatches with bubble screens, crossers, quick motions, and designed touches that take advantage of his versatility and explosiveness. There's even belief that he could enter the Offensive Rookie of the Year conversation if things click quickly. Then there's the addition of Dontavion Wicks, who the Eagles not only traded for, but quickly extended on a new deal through 2027. That move showed real confidence in his fit inside this offense. Marquise Hollywood Brown brings another element as a vertical speed threat capable of stretching defenses instantly. Johnny Wilson and Darius Cooper are also expected to compete for meaningful snaps, giving this receiver room an entirely new look if A.J. Brown is eventually moved. And when you start looking deeper into the offense, there are fascinating battles developing everywhere. The offensive line still has its anchors with Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson locking down the tackle spots, but there are questions inside. Drew Kendall could push Cam Jurgens if injuries continue to be an issue. Michael Morris has versatility to compete at both guard spots if Landon Dickerson struggles physically again. Young players like Holland Pierce, Cam Williams, and Miles Hinton are all fighting for opportunities behind the starters. At tight end, Dallas Goedert remains a key piece, but this new offensive system could create a breakout opportunity for Eli Stowers. And this is where things get really intriguing. The Eagles believe Stowers can line up almost anywhere, inline tight end, slot receiver, outside receiver. Some evaluators even viewed him as a giant wide receiver during the pre-draft process because of his athletic profile. Sean Mannion's offense values versatility, and Stowers could become one of the surprise weapons of the entire season if he develops quickly. Meanwhile, on the defensive side, Vic Fangio might quietly have one of the most dangerous units in football again. The trade for Jonathan Greenard completely changed the outlook of the pass rush. Philadelphia lost out on Jalen Phillips, but many inside the fan base believe Greenard might actually be the better fit anyway. He's explosive, disciplined, productive, and perfectly suited for Fangio's defensive structure. Pairing him with Jix Hunt off the edge gives the Eagles serious firepower, while Nolan Smith is expected to rotate heavily and still play an important role, and this defense keeps getting more athletic. Jihad Campbell is expected to step directly into the starting linebacker role next to Zach Bond after Nakobe Dean's departure to the Las Vegas Raiders. Campbell brings length, speed, and coverage upside that could elevate this defense even further. The concern, though, is health. He underwent another shoulder surgery this offseason, and Eagles fans are watching that situation carefully. Then you look at the secondary, and this group suddenly looks loaded. Reek Woolen replacing Adoree Jackson might end up being one of the sneakiest moves of the entire offseason. Woolen's size, speed, and physicality fit perfectly in Fangio's defense. At 6'4" with elite recovery speed, he gives Philadelphia another aggressive corner opposite Quinion Mitchell, while Cooper DeJean continues developing into a major playmaker. Fangio himself reportedly loved Woolen's tape and was surprised he didn't receive more attention around the league. And if Woolen thrives in this system, the Eagles' secondary could become one of the best in football. But here's the biggest question hanging over everything right now. A.J. Brown really is traded, and this offense fully transitions into Sean Mannion's new system. Are the Eagles actually becoming more dangerous than they were before, or are they risking too much change all at once? What makes this entire situation even more fascinating is that the Eagles are not making small adjustments here. This is a complete philosophical shift happening right in front of everyone, and the success or failure of the 2026 season may depend on how quickly these players adapt to the new identity Sean Mannion is trying to build. For years, this offense relied heavily on isolation routes, physical dominance on the outside, and explosive moments from A.J. Brown overpowering defenders. Now the Eagles are preparing for an offense built around spacing, timing, movement, and versatility. That changes everything for Jalen Hurts. This might actually be the most important season of Hurts' career because the excuses are gone. The coaching staff is designing an offense specifically intended to make quarterback reads cleaner and more efficient. More motion before the snap should help identify coverages earlier. More play-action concepts should create easier throwing windows. More crossing patterns and layered route concepts should open up the middle of the field. But at the same time, Hurts will have to process defenses faster and trust the system completely. That's been one of the biggest criticisms surrounding him over the last couple of seasons. Too often the offense became predictable. Too often the passing attack stalled. Too often the Eagles relied purely on talent-winning individual matchups instead of offensive structure creating advantages. Sean Mannion clearly believes he can change that. And internally, there's serious optimism about how dangerous this offense could become if the transition works. One player who may benefit massively from these changes is Saquon Barkley. Even though he admitted the zone blocking scheme is new territory for him, this style of rushing attack can create explosive lanes if executed correctly. Instead of purely relying on brute force, the Eagles want more flow, more movement, and more opportunities for Barkley to read the field and attack cutback lanes. Considering his vision and explosiveness, there's a belief this scheme could eventually maximize his strengths once he gets comfortable. And honestly, one underrated storyline nobody is talking enough about is how much pressure this puts on the younger receivers. If A.J. Brown is traded, suddenly there's no safety net anymore. My Lemon won't just be a complimentary piece. He'll be expected to contribute immediately. The Eagles clearly believe his versatility can become a nightmare for opposing defenses. Expect quick screens, jet sweeps, motions across formations, and manufactured touches designed specifically to get the ball into his hands in space. Philadelphia wants speed and unpredictability back in this offense, and Lemon fits that vision perfectly. Dontavion Wicks also becomes incredibly important. The Eagles didn't just bring him in as depth. Extending him immediately after the trade was a major signal that this front office believes he can become a legitimate contributor over the next 2 seasons. He brings physicality and toughness to the receiver room, while Hollywood Brown gives them pure vertical speed, capable of completely changing defensive coverages. And then there's one of the most intriguing names quietly gaining attention inside the building, Eli Stowers. The Eagles appear genuinely excited about how creative they can get with him in this new offense. In today's NFL, versatility is everything, and Stowers gives Philadelphia options. He's athletic enough to create mismatches against linebackers, but also big enough to create problems for defensive backs. Some teams viewed him almost like a hybrid weapon coming into the league, and Sean Mannion's offensive system is exactly the type of scheme where players like that can suddenly explode onto the national scene. But while the offense goes through this transformation, the defense may quietly carry this football team early in the season. Vic Fangio now enters his third year as defensive coordinator, and there's a growing feeling this could be the deepest defense he's had in Philadelphia. The addition of Jonathan Greenard was massive because it gives the Eagles another true impact edge rusher opposite Jix Hunt. Greenard's coming into a situation where he won't face constant double teams, especially playing next to monsters like Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis inside. That defensive front could become overwhelming. Jalen Carter continues developing into one of the most disruptive interior defenders in football, and Jordan Davis remains a force against the run. Moro Ojomo is expected to rotate heavily again, giving the Eagles fresh bodies throughout games. The depth across the defensive line might allow Fangio to be more aggressive than ever with pressure packages. And speaking of aggressiveness, Eagles fans are probably going to love watching Reek Woolen play in this defense. Everything about his physical profile screams perfect Fangio cornerback. Long arms, elite recovery speed, physical mentality. The Eagles believe his best football may still be ahead of him because of how well his traits fit this scheme. Playing alongside Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean could allow Woolen to play more confidently and aggressively without constantly being isolated. That secondary suddenly has a chance to become one of the most athletic groups in the NFC. At linebacker, Jahad Campbell may end up becoming one of the defining players of this new era. Replacing Nakobe Dean is not easy because Dean brought toughness and excellent run defense, but Campbell offers something different entirely. His range and athleticism in coverage could completely change the middle of the field for Philadelphia defensively. Fangio loves linebackers who can disguise pressure, cover space, and create confusion before the snap, and Campbell has the traits to eventually become that type of player. Still, the injury concerns remain real. Another shoulder surgery this offseason is something the Eagles will monitor carefully